Thank you, Chairman Carper, and thank you and Ranking Member Capito for not only holding the hearing, but inviting the two of us to attend as you look at this piece of legislation. I also want to thank my colleague, Senator Heinrich, who really has worked so hard to advance this and to be sure that we had a significant group of bipartisan co-sponsors, 32 bipartisan co-sponsors, and Senator Heinrich has really worked hard to put this together. We've worked hard to find a pay-for we believe works, and we've also worked to be sure that we had broad-based support from all 50 states, including the conservation agencies in those states. This legislation, as Martin has said, would be the most significant investment in wildlife conservation in a generation. It would fund proactive, voluntary conservation efforts to address really what is the nation's wildlife crisis. I also think it's a perfect partner to what we did in the last Congress as we look toward the future of restoring America's great park system. Enactment of this legislation into law would boost our economy, create more outdoor recreation opportunities, provide regulatory certainty to landowners across the country who otherwise are facing costly and burdensome impacts of potential threatened and endangered species listing, and conserve our natural heritage for future generations. A significant part of the goal here is to work with these state agencies so the federal government never has to be involved in an endangered species situation as they work hard to do what they can to be sure that they never get into that situation. I'm also pleased to introduce one of the panel's witnesses today. Ms. Sara Pauley is testifying on behalf of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. This is a group she served as the organization's president of until just September of this year. She currently serves as the 9th director of the Missouri Department of Conservation, a position she's held since November of 2016. Before that, she served as the director of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources from 2010 to 2016. She began her professional career as a policy analyst in the Missouri Department of Conservation in 1993. Native of Columbia, Missouri, Sara received both her law degree and her bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Missouri and did postgraduate studies in Australia as a Rotary Fellow. Just last month, she and I did 4 joint events in Missouri highlighting the recovery potential of this Recovering American Wildlife Act. This act establishes a new program, the Wildlife Conservation and Restoration Program, within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to promote voluntary conservation efforts to restore and protect at-risk, threatened, or endangered species. This program would provide approximately $1.3 billion annually to states, territories, and tribes for activities related to proactive and collaborative habitat restoration efforts to increase wildlife populations or to prevent species from becoming listed on the Endangered Species Act. This bill would help fund critical conservation efforts in our state and our grasslands. It would help promote species like the bobwhite quail, which were pretty numerous when I was growing up in Missouri, but have almost disappeared from our landscape. Meadowlarks, the greater prairie chickens, the restoration efforts that Sara and others have been parts of, including everything from restoring animals who at one time were very present in our state to the sportive species like wood ducks and other migratory animals that come through our state, animals and birds. This legislation would boost Missouri's outdoor recreation economy. Currently, that economy supports 93,000 jobs in our state, contributes about $7.5 billion to the local economy, and depends on healthy fish and wildlife populations. The bill would ensure more wildlife viewing opportunities, which directly contribute to millions of jobs and billions of consumer revenue. In Missouri, based on the legislative proposal, we estimate that we'd receive about $22 million annually, including the state matching funds. That compares to about $1 million that the state receives right now. Haven't seen the entire list on this bill, but normally on any distribution of money in the country, Missouri's right around 25. We're all right in the middle. So every state should look at that $22 million annual number, and you're going to be somewhere on either side of that, but obviously $22 million would make a lot more impact than the $1 million currently received from the federal government for these funds. Certainly look forward to working with the chairman, the ranking member, and my significant co-sponsor here who's done so much work on this. This bill, as drafted, as Martin has already suggested, has broad bipartisan support in the Senate. It has a diverse group of stakeholders around the country, including the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus, the National Wildlife Federation, and 1,500 or more organizations representing state fish and wildlife agencies, industry associations, and businesses. Thank you again for holding this hearing, for looking at this bill, and we appreciate the opportunity all of the co-sponsors do to continue to work with this committee as you think about what would really be an exciting addition to what we do for our wildlife in the country.